Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Potty Planet Entertainment. My name is Chris, and in case you don't know, I review movies and I rank them on a scale of 0 to 100 in increments of 5. We are back. I just came off a 3-day work weekend. I worked 12-hour shifts, so yeah. So I wanted to get this video up Friday. That didn't end up happening. I kept getting off late this weekend. But anyways, check out the cool shirt. Yeah, check it. Anyways, so as you can tell, I am a big fan of Scream, and that is exactly what we're going to be reviewing today. We're going to be reviewing Scream 2022. Saw this movie on opening day. Just like I said, I work 12-hour shifts, so it's hard for me to get these videos out. I don't get paid to make them, so. But I love the original Scream. I think it's a really good movie. I really enjoy it. It's obviously not as good as Halloween. It's not as good as A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I do think it's one of the better slasher films out there. It's a satire of the slasher genre, but it's not. It takes itself a little bit more seriously than that, and it has more self-respect than just a straight up parody movie. They used to like do these movies where like they would make whole movies that are a parody of one movie. I know they did that with Top Gun. I can't remember what it was called, but it had the dude from 2.5 Men in it. Crap, I know his name by heart. I just can't think of it right now. But anyway, they used to make movies like that. They did one for Lethal Weapon. It was called Loaded Weapon. It has Samuel L. Jackson in it. But nowadays, they sort of make movies that make fun of entire genres. And that's actually what the scary movies were. They were just parodies of horror movies. But this movie was different from that. It was its own thing, making fun of the whole genre, but it wasn't necessarily a straight up comedy. And it was really inventive. It was a nice twist on the slasher genre. It spawned several sequels. I've never bothered to watch any of them, but I've heard they're all like all right. But now we got this new one out that is Scream 5, but they didn't call it Scream 5, and they even make fun of that in the movie. It's a very self-aware film. So let's go ahead and start talking about Scream 2022. It stars Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Melissa Barrera. It was directed by Matt Bettinell, Alpin, and Tyler Gillette. They also they made Ready or Not, which I did see that in theaters. I thought that was a pretty fun movie. And it was produced by Gary Barber, Kathy Conrad, Ron Lynch, Marian Madalena, Peter Oyatagrer, Chad Viella, I don't know, and Kevin Williamson. And this movie, Sidney Prescott is back, although she's not the main character. They do sort of like a Force Awakens thing with this, where like they bring in these new characters and the legacy characters are there to complement them. It's exactly what this is. And there is a new killer in town, and same plot. There's teenagers that are trying to figure out who it is, while they all get picked off one by one. And it is pretty fun to watch. I'm a big fan of the slasher genre, although I am picky when it comes to them, because slasher movies can just get so incredibly terrible that I just don't want to watch them unless it's like the classics, like Halloween and Scream and Friday the 13th. No, I hate Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street. If you see my video for the Friday the 13th movies, you know I despise those movies. But the really good ones I really, really love. And I think Scream is definitely one of the better ones out there. And I think that this was a really nice compliment to the original. I really do. I think Wes Craven, rest his soul, I think he would be very pleased with this movie. Is this movie as good as the original? No, it's not. Is it one of the best slashers of all time? No, it's not. It's definitely one of the better ones, though. I would probably say this is probably better than any of the Halloween sequels. Based on what I've heard. I've only seen up to Halloween 2 and the new ones. But this movie's getting very strong feedback. And for a slasher flick, that's very rare. And so I'm really happy to see that people actually do like this movie. Myself included. Critics seem to like it. Audiences seem to like it. It's a good movie. I'm actually surprised. I actually like this movie. I thought it was good. I did not think it was great by any means. I had quite a few flaws with it, and we're gonna go over all those flaws. But I think that this was a very respectable follow up to the original. I really do. This doesn't disrespect the original in any way. If anything, it just complements it. It's not as good as that movie, but I think it really is very respectful to it. And it's a good addition to the series. It really is. I was pleased with this movie. So let's go ahead and get into my pros and cons with it. So my first pro with it is that it is kind of a funny movie. This does have some good jokes that land, and it's funny because I was laughing during some of the kill scenes, but not in a bad way. Like, I was laughing with the movie. Like, somebody would, like, Ghostface would, like, fall on a table or something. And I would laugh, but not at the movie. It was just because I was really enjoying it. And again, there are a few jokes that land in the movie. And like I said, this movie doesn't disrespect the original at all. This is a very good follow-up to it. I really like Dewey in the movie. I thought that David Arquette was really good in the movie. The legacy characters, they came to play. They were really good in the movie. But especially David Arquette. I really liked him in this movie. He was probably my favorite part of the film. The kills they're fun. They're fun to watch. Slasher flicks like really go all out nowadays for the kills. Like Halloween kills, those kills were pretty intense. And this movie doesn't hold back either. Also, I don't think I've ever given a movie this compliment before, but the posters for this movie were really cool. This is something I wanted to mention. I really like the posters for this movie. It's a very suspenseful flick. I gotta say, this definitely had me on the edge of my seat at a few moments. It's a really well-paced movie. It doesn't drag. It has some really spooky and great shots of Ghostface. There are some really, really cool shots of Ghostface in this movie that are just wallpaper worthy, where he just looks so cool. They did a really good job with that. Not that the cinematography was really anything worth bragging about, and I'll get into that, but and this movie also has some really good false tension in it. I don't want to go too deep into that, but if you watch the movie, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. And I do have some spoilers for this movie, both pros and cons, but I'm going to save them for after my rating. I know the movie's been out for a few weeks, but I still want to be respectful, so I will go back and talk about my spoilers after I give the rating, and because I have some for my pros and my cons. So let's go ahead and get into my cons, because I do have quite a few. For one thing, this movie has way too many up-close shots. There are a lot of shots of people talking like this, and it did bug me a little bit. Like I said, the cinematography in this movie is not anything worth bragging about. It's a self-aware movie, but at times it's a little bit too on the nose. Also, there's a scene where this girl is watching the first Scream movie on TV. But it doesn't make any sense because they didn't remove the first one from canon. But she's watching it on TV. That's just as bad as when they showed that clip of the first Matrix movie in the Matrix Resurrections and pretended like it was part of the video game that they kept talking about. It just made no sense. Let's see. And this is a con that I actually have with the first movie as well, is that it would be nice if these movies would leave breadcrumbs as to who the killer is. Because the whole time you watch, including the first movie, the killer could be anybody. And it almost feels like they don't know who the killer is, so they're like, let's just get started, and then we'll make it whoever we want at the end. Although, for the first movie, it actually makes sense, because when you go back and look at it after you find out who the killers are, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense now because of this. So, that movie, it doesn't hint at it, but you can tell that they knew who the killers were. This one, it feels like they couldn't make up their minds, so they're like, we'll figure it out later. And this is one character in the movie who keeps talking about, we need to stay in public so that we don't get killed. And then at some point, like 2 minutes after he says that, he goes out into the dark by himself trying to find his girlfriend. There are characters in this movie that are just there to be bodies. Yeah, it's got that. Let's see. The teenage crew really isn't as compelling as they were in the original. I didn't like any of them as much as I liked the characters in the first movie. And that's going to do it for my non-spoiler section. So I'm going to go ahead and give my rating, and then we'll get into my spoiler pros and cons for everybody who has seen the movie. So, but I'll give my final thoughts first. I really like this movie. I think it was a really respectful follow-up to the original. I will be buying this movie. I will be rewatching it. I did enjoy it. It's not a great movie, but I think I might like it a little bit more when I watch it a second time. Not sure, but I did like it. With all that being said, I'm going to give it a 75. Now, that was hard for me because I thought maybe I should give this an 80, and I still think maybe I should give this an 80, so I'm going to watch it again at some point, and then I'll maybe let you know if I like it better. But I was kind of torn between a 75 and an 80, and I still am. But anyway, let's get into the spoiler section. So, let's get into my spoiler pros first. So, for one thing, Skeet Ulrich is in this movie. And he's CG'd to be younger. He's like an apparition in his daughter's head. And every time he was on scene, on camera, I thought it was really cool. I really liked him in this movie. I thought it was... I mean, it doesn't... Unless she's got schizophrenia, how she kept seeing him doesn't really make much sense. And they do this in movies sometimes where, like, they imagine somebody. They did that in The Rise of Skywalker when Kylo Ren was talking to Harrison Ford. He was talking to Han Solo. But, like, unless he's schizophrenic, the scene really didn't make any sense. So this movie, you know, I don't mean to single this movie out. It's just a movie trope that makes no sense. But I still like seeing him in the movie. It was pretty cool. I also really liked how Dewey's death was handled. I thought it was a really good motivator for Gale and Prescott. Yeah, so I thought that moment was just like gave this movie the punch that it needed to drive these characters to really want to catch the killers. And yeah, that's gonna do it for my pros. So let's get into my spoiler cons now. So, at the end of the movie, all three of our female heroes are, like, stabbed up. But for some reason, Gale and Sydney don't go to the hospital. And that doesn't make any sense considering they got stabbed. Just saying. Let's see. Also, I noticed... So, you know there's two killers in this movie, right? There's the guy and the girl. The size of Ghostface, whenever the girl was the killer, I'm very confident is different from the size of her. And also, when she is the killer, she's a lot stronger than I feel like she actually would be. Thoughts? Let's see. So when Barrera is fighting her boyfriend, right? Why is it that Sydney and Gale stay in the kitchen? They're like, they shoot the girl and set her on fire. And then they stay in the kitchen until the fight is over. And they walk in and they're like, hey, you okay? It's like, you could have come to help at any point. Just saying. And also, the killer's motivation is so stupid. It's so stupid. Well, the stab movies got really bad, and we're gonna have our own ending. Stupid. Really, really, really stupid. But I did still like this movie. I did still like this movie. It is not a great movie by any means. It's not as good as that movie by any means. But I did think it was a really respectable follow-up. I'm glad people are enjoying this movie. I did myself. All my friends seem to hate it. But I think they have higher standards for movies than I do. I get more enjoyment out of movies than they do, I feel like. But yeah. So that's my thoughts on Scream. I do want to review this movie at some point. Maybe I'll do this like a Halloween special, or maybe I'll do it like this summer or something. I don't know. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Pirate Planet Entertainment for more. Hit the like button. Leave me a review, suggestions down in the comments down below. Follow me on Instagram at Pirate Planet Entertainment for channel updates. And I will be reviewing Jackass Forever. I will be reviewing Moonfall, and I will also have a film series that I'm going to be reviewing as well. All my notes are finished for it. Just got to write them down and make the videos. But I'm very excited to do that series. So I hope that you stick with me through it, and much love.